How's everyone?
I'm back, baby.
It's Jake Ciely.
I'm great. Everybody else sucks.
Oh,
no. It's every nightmare I've ever had.
Excuse me?
It's time to check the link.
Pretty crazy, huh? But it doesn't matter because none of this has anything to do with the show.
You know what? You just made the list.
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
It's all in football.
Sure, we talk about it all the time. Really? No.
There you go. What's up, you ducks? Got the music and everything. Should I play this through the entire show, Jeff?
I guess.
Just in the background?
Won't be distracting at all.
It won't be like, well, this is going to be distracting anyway. How do I stop that? There we go. Anyway, welcome to All in Football. Another mask day, as Jeff is going to have to stare at this all show long. Yes, follow Jeff at Jeff Ratcliffe. At FTN, code ALLIN. Get you 20% off. And what else? theathletic.com/BetsTV, all capitals. Get your first free month. We're talking week 8 rankings, as we always do, Jeff. Jeff is number 2. I am number 3 in the accuracy on the season. This is a really heavy mask, so I'll see if I make it through the entire show. And hopefully it doesn't fog up. You missed the one yesterday, Jeff. I couldn't even see for the entire show. I was like leaning over to the side trying to... What do you do? Are you doing anything for Halloween? You got kids, so I know you got to be doing something.
Well, yeah, and it's also a Sunday. But my costume is ready for this. A so-called fantasy expert. That's what I'm showing up as right now. No, it'll be a lot of fun. Obviously, I'll be in New York for that other pregame show on Sunday morning, which you should be watching 8 to noon. That is Eastern Standard Time there on CBS Sports Network. But when I come home, yeah, we're going to set up a table in the driveway, try and get some games going on the TV out there, handing out adult beverages to the adults who are going around with their kids and candy to the kids. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, by the way, I don't know if Royal Money is a follower of the Rat Pack, but love your mask, Jeff. It's Jake. That's Jeff. Jeff's the one you can see. What the hell? Can we even get this right at the start of the show? Everybody wants that. And my sister has people who have neighbors that do that. They hand out adult beverages and snacks at the same time. You don't want to mix those up, Jeff. You get we might not be doing shows together anymore.
No. Our neighborhood's kind of cool like that too. So yeah, it's a good way to break the ice. I mean, hey, if you're trick-or-treating with your kids, you kind of go up and you walk away. But if it's like, oh, hey, you want a beer? You want a White Claw? What do you want? You know, you kind of get to know people a little bit better anyway. So it's fun.
Oh, yeah, I did miss the joke. I get it. But Jeff, I didn't tell Jeff I was doing a mask, so don't blame him. He's not going to have. Actually, you know what? I'll save it for later in the show. We don't usually talk quarterbacks when we talk rankings, Jeff, but I wanted to bring up Patrick Mahomes for a reason. It's funny that I talked about this with Chris, and the first time since 2019 that Patrick Mahomes has scored 7 points or a single-digit score game. And people are in panic mode. And panic mode, I get it. You see chuckle, but like the offensive line looks miserable. I mean, that's a big reason why he's rolling out when he doesn't even want to roll out, and he's trying to do too much. At the same time, should we consider him still as a locked-in top 3 quarterback every single week? You chuckled, so I kind of feel like what your answer might be. But I mean, at the same time, it wouldn't be the first. Let's go back last year. Lamar Jackson wasn't even top 5, and it took some time for people to realize that, or to at least acknowledge it. Is it potential that Patrick Mahomes is just going to be more volatile than we've ever seen Patrick Mahomes before?
I mean, I guess the question that I have, though, is does he have to be a locked-in top 3? Can he just be a locked-in top 10? Because there really are 10 quarterbacks that we want right now. And if we have them, we don't need a backup. And Patrick Mahomes is still part of that. You know, at the top of my radio show, there's a clip from me. It's really old, but I said you got to divorce yourself from the fan mindset. Basically, if you want to be successful in fantasy football, you can't be a fan. Now, we're all fans of the game. We all came to playing fantasy football because we love football. But fans are irrational. Fans are, what have you done for me lately? I always point out the year the Eagles won the Super Bowl, it was right around this time of year, late October, early November, on Philly Sports Talk Radio. There were people screaming about how bad they were and that Doug Peterson shouldn't have a job. Now, maybe foreshadowing there a little bit, but that year he obviously deserved the job. If we're only going to look at last week, If we're only going to look at the trees and not the forest, we're not going to be successful. That mindset of panicking over Patrick Mahomes, it's not a good mindset. It's not a sustainable mindset. Let people panic, buy low. He's still a top 10 fantasy quarterback, and he's going to bounce back from arguably his worst performance as a pro.
All right, fair enough. By the way, for Taylor, no, I cannot do the entire show in Darth Vader voice. I don't even know if I could do a good Darth Vader voice. I mean, I could breathe. I mean, I might be sounding like breathing like him halfway through the show at this point. But I think my voice would suck. But too, Jeff, I told Chris, actually Chris was there when I did this. I did an entire show in Batman voice.
Ooh.
And destroyed my throat for the next 2 days. So
yeah.
I'm not going to try and go down that road again. Too many shows to do. So we'll get back to running back or quarterbacks because we got to talk our streamers later. But I want to talk about Deandre Swift real quick. And we don't usually spend a lot of time also on this. We don't spend a lot of time on RB1s and everything like that. But before last week, Deandre Swift was primarily fourth quarter. He was basically the Jaylen Hertz of running backs. 75% of his production was coming in one quarter. Last week, they finally changed it up. They used him in the first quarter, Jeff. How about that? They used him the entire game. Is that one game enough for you to say, all right, Anthony Lynn, this coaching staff has woken up. This is what we can expect going forward. Deandre Swift is a top 8 running back, or is it one game and you need to see more?
Is there any vendetta against the Eagles? I feel like that game plan was really just set up for Jared Goff, right? It's like, oh, we get the touchdown, we're going to go onside. I mean, they had all kinds of quirks in that game plan. I don't know if that sets up for the Eagles, but the nice thing about the Eagles, they can't defend the run. So Swift's going to have his way here in this contest. And I think, sustainable going forward, it certainly is because they're going to continue to play from behind most weeks. Passing down back, playing from behind. And honestly, Jake, I don't care when the scoring comes from. I keep saying this about Jaylen Hertz. Like, Jaylen Hertz, he's not the only problem in Philadelphia. He's a big problem in Philadelphia. But for fantasy, he's been amazing. So who cares when the production comes? As long as it comes, it doesn't really matter to me.
So I'm glad you brought up Jaylen Hertz because there's a question and then something else that was actually, it just made me think of with this. Jaylen Hertz or Kirk Cousins for you this week?
Oh, Hertz.
And
I mean, it's Jaylen Hertz and then there's only 3 quarterbacks ahead of him right now. I
think, so you have 4? Where do I have them? Let's see if I can even read my rankings. I'm on there goes the microphone. I was on defense because somebody was like, you have the Seahawks defense way too low. It's like, the defense that's actually scored no more than 6 points this entire season.
Yeah,
sure.
You know what, though? I gave up ranking defenses for that exact reason. Like, Jeff, I have this defense at 4, and you got a defense ranked at 3 on waivers. Should I pick them up? Like, no, bro. Like, nobody knows anything about defense. All we want is touchdowns because of the silly, antiquated scoring system that we use. I stopped ranking it all together, and I'm giving you plays who I would keep if I have them on my roster, and then streamers each week. And honestly, it keeps working.
Here's the easiest thing to stream. Nando, 8-9 years ago, was the one that kind of pointed it out first. Somebody might have pointed it out before him, but he was the first person that ever pointed it out to me. That's all I know. So he looks at 2 things. Pat Mayo picked it up. 2 things. You look at adjusted sack rate, and then on the defensive side, that's for the offensive line allowing adjusted sack rate. And then for the defensive line, it's quarterback pressure. You mix the 2 together, you get sacks right out of the gate. By getting sacked, you potentially also get turnovers because of running out of the pocket, forcing to throw when you don't want to throw. Those are the 2 best things. Is it 100%? No. Like you just said, defense is all over the place. But Jaylen Hertz, real quick, this is a sidebar, and I know your answer, but I'm asking because I see it, and I know you've probably seen it too. If Jaylen Hertz was your only quarterback, would you have concerns about weeks 15, 16, 17 of them turning to Gardner Minshew because they finally give up on Jaylen Hertz?
Oh, so you're telling me I made the playoffs already?
I know the answer to the question.
Hey, man, we are in week 8. I can't guarantee that for anybody right now. And I do think that a lot of folks in fantasy count those chickens before those eggs are hatched. You're only guaranteed to play 14 weeks in most leagues right now. So I'm not worried about that. This is another one where I've been trying to pivot people off of saying rest of season. I don't know what rest of season is. If anything I've learned this season, things change very dramatically quickly. So I'm thinking in much shorter term windows. honestly, I'll tackle that when I get there. The nice thing is, if I'm playing in week 15, week 16, week 17, there aren't as many teams I'll be fighting against on waivers as there would be right now. So there's going to be quarterbacks out there for me to pick up at that point in time. I'm not really overly concerned. If you really are that concerned, sure, you could stash somebody. There are plenty of options out there right now. But, again, we may be in a position at that point where Trey Lance is finally under center and things are happening. We may be in a position where, heck, I don't know, like some of these Derek Carr types will be out there that you could probably use. So, no, I'm not really overly concerned right now. We could see Minshew though, that's for sure.
Yeah, this mask actually tries to make you breathe like Darth Vader. You can hear like, I'm trying to like breathe through this thing. Back to running backs. So I'm not like, I told you everybody, but in my waiver column, there was a part where I talked about Ramondre Stevenson being inactive. And this wasn't to say, hold on to Stevenson. This was, I'm not buying 100% that Brandon Bolden is definitively the number 2. And I referenced the show that I did with Deandre Williams last year where he said sometimes things happen in practice on Wednesday, Thursday, especially with running backs, especially with rookie running backs, and they get benched. It's a lesson to teach them. And then we got the report that same day that said he missed a pass blocking assignment week 6. The team's being frustrated with him, similar to Tyson Williams in the passing game, even much as they like him. So I say all this to say this, Jeff. Not go grab Stevenson, not start Stevenson, but where is your 1 to 5 trust level that Brandon Bolden is now the number 2 and usable as a flex running back?
I'm going to answer your question indirectly yet again. I feel like I'm on a streak here. I'm like DiMaggio today with these. Brandon Bolden isn't the number 2, but there isn't a number 2 the way that Belichick runs things. He's James White, and that's fine, but it's not a very consistent role in that offense. It's a volatile role. And by the way, if you're new to football, Bill Belichick hates the Jets, hates the Jets. So that was by design to run the score up. Once they got it going, you knew they were just going to hammer it. I love that the second J.J. Taylor is like, wait, is this a replay or is this actually happening again? He's James White. And Ramondre Stevenson, I am a firm believer that if Damian Harris went down, they would have to turn to Ramondre Stevenson because J.J. Taylor is too small to play that role. So if you really wanted to cuff, you can cuff with Stevenson. It's not going to be all of a sudden Brandon Bolden gets 15 to 20 carries in any contest.
Okay. Let's go to the 49ers. 49ers, Elijah Mitchell, clearly Shanahan's guy. There's no question. But we can put that aside now. But now we have a new discussion to have. Is he top RB2, top end RB2 trustworthy? Because Hasty was clearly the pass catcher. And then there's a second level to this, Jeff. Not for this week, but it might be the last week with Garoppolo at quarterback. Trey Lance could be the new quarterback. Does that improve it in your opinion for Elijah Mitchell? Decrease his opportunity because Lance is going to take off running? So both this week and going forward, how do you feel about Elijah Mitchell?
I feel he's an RB2. I don't have him as a high-end RB2, a mid-range RB2, because the exact reason you just mentioned. It was pretty obvious there about JaMychal Hasty. Automatically, hey, if you're watching right now and you're in the chat, you're posting comments, we see you. You do not have to say Jeff Wilson. Jeff Wilson's not going to be back anytime soon, okay? A lot of people misunderstand. PUP doesn't mean only 6 weeks. It means at least 6 weeks and then could take a lot of time. We even saw John Lynch come out and say he's still weeks away. So it's the backfield's pretty clear. I think Lance, if anything, does help. Yes, you could say in theory it does take a few carries off the plate, or it does extend the drive a little bit more and creates more opportunity for him as well with the mobility. And I'm actually a little bit more bullish there than I am with Justin Fields. I do think that people have gone a little bit far off the deep end with Justin Fields. So here's I'm going to throw this out here to you, Jake. Here's the first 4 games of a quarterback. We got to go back a little bit in time, but here are the numbers for you, okay? 992, right, in terms of yards. This is 4 games. 3 passing touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 11 sacks. Now, mind you, over the last 4 games, Justin Fields has 678, 2 passing touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and 1 sack. I'm throwing that Cleveland game out because that was Matt Nagy and whatever. So who was the player that I just mentioned, Jake?
I don't know, honestly. I was trying to think. I was trying to bring.
It's a tricky one.
I know. Well, you're gonna be like Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes wasn't that bad.
No, he wasn't. It was Peyton Manning.
I was gonna. That was my first guess. I was gonna go back that far though.
Yeah.
That's my issue.
11 interceptions in his first 4. Peyton Manning looked absolutely dreadful. There were people throwing around the dreaded B word bust early on in his career, and it worked out pretty well. Now, I'm not saying Justin Fields is going to be Peyton Manning, but what I'm saying is if an all-time great can get off to a bad start, Justin Fields could turn this around. Allen Robinson even came out and talked about how they're not on the same page because he got no first-team reps. So dynasty-wise, buy on Justin Fields. Obviously, you can't start him in redraft right now. We all know that. Nobody's trying to make that claim. But before we completely write him off for dead, I do think we need to give him a little bit of a longer leash. And I think the same thing with Trey Lance once he finally gets in there.
Yeah, I'm 100%. I had a question. That's where I got it from, was in the rankings. And somebody asked about this. Should I get away from Elijah Mitchell before Trey Lance takes all of his carries? I said, we were all over the running backs for the Ravens when they had good ones because Lamar Jackson opened things up. I think the biggest thing is they have the fear that Josh Allen happens and he ends up taking too much. But at the same time, we'd be fine if that backfield was one running back, like one main. The problem is they split week to week. Unlike, yes, Hasty's in the passing game, but Elijah Mitchell's the guy. So I'm with you. And there's actually a question in here. Maybe here, I'll try to do this one in the voice. What'd you do? I see. I can't do a voice. The dark side. I can't. I'll breathe for you. Javonte Williams for Zach Moss. I want Williams. Here's the interesting things, Jeff. I said sell high on Javonte Williams because people still want him to happen, because he's the rookie, because he looks better more often than not. But Melvin Gordon's not going away without an injury. Yes, Melvin Gordon has had injuries, and he's up there in age, but I'm not going to buy Javonte Williams hoping Melvin Gordon gets hurt. Javonte Williams is carrying top 20 running back value in trades. I've seen the trades. So I want Javonte Williams in this trade. I'd much rather have him than Zach Moss. But at the same time, if I can get top 20 for Javonte Williams, I'm trading him away.
I think I'm holding.
Are you?
Yeah. I still, the writing's on the wall for this. And whether it's injury or not, eventually there comes a point where this team is going to be looking to the future as well and want to, get a little bit more out of him. I don't know. Melvin Gordon's not the future, so I'm holding. We're only at week 8, and this typically happens over the second half of the season, so we're not even technically there yet.
All right. So if you got top 15 running, I'll put it this way. Would you rather have Javonte Williams or Myles Gaskin the rest of the way now that Malcolm Brown is out?
I don't want Myles Gaskin.
Okay. No, that's certainly fair. That's why I brought him up.
If you said you were going to give me Cordero Patterson for him, I would hit accept faster than you could ever believe. But
I mean, we're at the point now, like Cordero Patterson is an RB1.
It's crazy.
About that. I told a lot of people this week, if you need the space, you can drop Mike Davis. But Mike Davis is still a high-end backup. If anything happened to Patterson, he would go back to being a volume RB2. So I'm not looking to drop Mike Davis, but you could. Here's the interesting one. I'm going to throw this one at you, Jeff, because I really want to get into him for a second here. That being Antonio Gibson. We are, I say we, the fantasy community, the world, is terrified that any given week Washington's going to be like, screw it, we're already out of it. Let's shut him down, because that's the only way he's going to heal. There's been multiple sites and inside injuries, works for the Athletic, or post stuff for the Athletic, and has said it multiple times. This injury is not going to go away without sitting down and not playing. Would you take Javonte Williams or Antonio Gibson? Because I think you would say Javonte at this point, wouldn't you?
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of speculation there. And the simple fact of the matter, I actually had a caller today say, I'm not happy with his usage. And I said, he had 16 touches last week. You know what? I tell you that for most running backs, and you're over the moon. And yet with Gibson, we're all upset. It just seems like we have these expectations in August, and we hang on to those expectations even when the landscape changes. The new reality for Gibson is he is an RB2. He is a back-end RB2 most weeks, maybe a mid-range RB2. But what has not changed for him is he's still very touchdown dependent. He's been that way even back to the college ranks. He scores a touchdown, even one touchdown the last couple of weeks, and I think people have a better outlook here. I think I would still keep Gibson there. I know I'm maybe in a minority with that one, but I do still believe in him. And honestly, if they had concerns, I think they would have acted on those now, because you have to realize that you're not in the mix if you have Taylor Heinicke under center and Ryan Fitzpatrick not coming back.
So there's some reports that Fitzpatrick could soon. I think, put it this way, I kind of went and I agree with you, but I don't think they've completely given up yet. I think another loss, maybe 2, but I think there's that still. Look, there's a chance anything can happen at any point in the season. They're definitively better than the Giants. Then I know that's not saying much. The Eagles look not in contention, so you just got to get a wild card. I agree with you. Like, if we were sitting here and saying, are they going to make the playoffs? Nobody would say yes, but I don't think they're ready to give up yet. So that's where I'm like, I get it though. Put it this way. I'll say, if I'm looking at, I'm chasing, I already have a risky team. I'm 4-3, something like that. And I'm looking for the upside. I would take Gibson, because I know I'm like kind of similar to Washington. If you think there's a slim chance you're going to make the playoffs and win it, and you have to take chances, go get Gibson. If I'm locked in solid and Williams is going to be my RB3, I would make the swap. Make sense?
I mean, I can see it.
Okay.
I'm more of a believer in building through waivers at this time of year, especially at running back. I mean, if you're a little preemptive, you could be sitting on some pretty nice running backs right now. The Khalil Herberts of the world were free only a few weeks ago. So being as preemptive as possible, it's just really hard to dramatically improve your team via trades. That's my experience.
Here, I'll do my one Darth Vader. Because I don't have an itch.
Was that Chewbacca doing Darth Vader?
When he's doing his like, oh, like.
No, that's not Darth Vader.
Yes, it is. It's when it's towards the end. It's at the end.
Are you talking about in A New Hope when a guy is like,
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about legitimately when Darth Vader yells in aggravation. Anyway, I have
You can't win, Jake. I have the high ground.
I have an itch right here. It's going to take 25 minutes for me to get to it, and I'm going to be so annoyed. I can feel it. This is like, they have Chinese water, or what is it? Chinese water torture where this is up there. Like, just having an itch you can't get to. I can't scratch it. Anyway, Jets running backs. Now, assuming Ty Johnson's okay, sounds like he might be, but Michael Carter, Ty Johnson split continues to be pronounced. This isn't about Michael Carter. We talked about Michael Carter for plenty of times. At this point, Jeff, with the usage, and then Mike White might even check down even more, is Ty Johnson the Brandon Bolden we can trust? He's been an RB3 for the past couple weeks, or their games.
I don't know if I'm there. It's hard enough. I love Michael Carter. It's hard enough to really kind of trust him. I don't know if I want to add more to that. And Mike White, or is it going to be Flacco next week? I mean, you can say all the vote of confidence you want, Robert Saleh, but are we really there with Mike White? I don't know. I don't feel it with Ty Johnson. I think there might be some other options out there. No, not for me. I've never been a Ty Johnson guy, though. I even go back to Maryland. Like, he couldn't hold his job at Maryland. Anthony McFarland Jr. passed him up on that depth chart in his last year there. And he's obviously he's a pro football player. I'm not knocking that, but he's just a guy type for me. And I don't think I want to go that route.
Well, here's the thing is, like, they're basically treating him as their second/third wide receiver. And at this point, that's, again, half point, full point PPR, RB3. I'm saying get excited about him. As long as, put it this way, as long as Tevin Coleman's out, which, that almost might. By the way, how has Joe Flacco not gotten to New York? Like, does he not want to go? Is this all of a sudden this trade is going to be like reversed, that he's not even there? It's what? You could drive there. You could 3-hour drive at most?
No,
where he's coming from?
Not even that. It takes me an hour and 45 minutes to get up there from where I am, just outside of the city, and I imagine he's got to be pretty close to where I am.
Yeah, I wonder if he's like, maybe he doesn't even want to go back to the Jets. All right, so let's talk about the Eagles running backs. With no Miles Sanders, Boston Scott the lead, because you want to talk about Tyson Williams and having pass blocking issues. Kenneth Gainwell might be the king of that this year. Missing assignments weekly, getting blown up weekly. He would probably be on the field a hell of a lot more if he could just do anything. in that regard. But Boston Scott they trust. Boston Scott would be the lead option from all the reports covering the teams. Kenneth Gainwell's role really wouldn't change. But now what do we get, Jeff? We get the Peyton Barber of the Eagles, Jordan Howard. Just go away. Leave us alone. Might be activated. Can you use Boston Scott this week, or is Jordan Howard going to muck up everything?
He probably will. They don't have a bigger back, and that's the MO for Nick Sirianni. You know, you go back to Indianapolis, they have the bigger back, the passing down back. Boston Scott's not a bigger back. Now, you can do some of the things that you want him to do, but really the only back with any appeal here is Gainwell, and it's solely because of his Theo Riddick profile as a pass catcher, not because of anything else. So if I'm going to use one of them, it's him. He should be involved in garbage time, which, I don't know, starts in the second quarter for the Eagles at this point. And there's that. I mean, Jordan Howard, yeah, it'll mess things up, but obviously no appeal to Jordan Howard. Is he still loved to love? Do people still love him out there in fantasy football despite what he's done? I don't think we're at that point anymore, but he was, for the longest time, people just ignored what he did on the field and just loved him anyway. Unconditional.
I was trying to get the pen all the way up to my eye to scratch, and I can't. I can't get it past my cheek.
Don't poke yourself there.
Here, one eye, you don't even know it. That's the good thing. You won't even know if I injured myself.
Then you could be a pirate for your next show.
Oh, good call. Thanks. Yeah, there you go for tomorrow. I was going to try. We'll see. Maybe I can do the Ant-Man mask tomorrow. We'll see. We'll find out. Real quick on this, Jeff. Lee, I could actually read some of this. Just asked, is Corey Davis still startable? I don't understand. What's wrong with Corey Davis? Yes, he's scored a touchdown.
Yes.
Is he going to put up 7 for 90 every single week? No, I don't understand why people are worried about Corey. Is it maybe the Mike White? Is that they're worried about?
Is Mike White that much of a downgrade from, no, I think Zach Wilson long-term is going to be fine, but.
I was going to say, hold on, rephrase your question. Is Mike White a downgrade is the question.
I don't see much of a change here.
Right.
I don't, some players I don't get the perception versus the reality gap. Is it I guess I'm spoiled because I watch every game, so I get to see what he looks like, but no, he's looked fine. Corey Davis is fine. Yeah. People keep asking me if they should drop him. Like, no. You're keeping him on your squad. He's the number one receiver for a team, and I know it's not the best team out there, but still, he's the number one receiver. We're going to keep that guy on our rosters. Don't find excuses to drop players if you don't need to drop them.
Yeah. And with somebody, Beef Stew asked about Jameson Crowder. I actually like Jameson Crowder even more if Joe Flacco becomes the quarterback. And I still like Jameson Crowder. I think he's top 40. Yeah. You like this? Somebody just said they like this mask better. It's not better. This is what I wore yesterday. Jeff, I was Gizmo Duck yesterday. That's better. It's like Darth Gizmo Duck. That's what I'm doing. Here we go. Can this work?
It up.
Let's see. Oh, no, I can't even see anything. Too many masks in front of me. But this
you look like a you look like a electronic dance music DJ who's trying too hard, man.
Should I start doing a mix?
DJ Darth Duck on the ones and twos.
Darth Duck, the new. Yeah, there we go. Love it. Thank you, Jeff. That's I'm going to change my name, Darth Duck. All right. So where are we going next? Let's real quick stick with the Eagles. Rigger bounced back somewhat.
Well, he scored a touchdown.
Yeah, that's why I said. That's why somewhat. He's still the number 2 somewhat. This isn't the question of whether or not he's startable. I think you're pretty desperate. No, not necessarily. Deeper leagues, injuries, buys, and stuff like that. I wasn't going to, I'll put him in this conversation. The one I was saving for the end of the wide receivers. I was going to say Allen Robinson, Darnell Mooney, Odell Beckham, Robbie Anderson. They're all droppable. Put it this way, Rager versus all those guys, do you even have a preference of holding on? I would say hold on to Allen Robinson just in case a surprise trade happens, but are you interested in rostering any of those 5 guys?
I still have Robinson as a hold. I guess Beckham's a hold as well.
Beckham's gone for me. Long gone. Take the name off the jersey. Jarvis Landry's back.
Yeah, Jarvis Landry's not appealing either. I have him on a droppable list as well.
No. But the fact is, when Jarvis Landry is healthy, he's the only Browns wide receiver we can trust.
Yeah, I guess. Can we trust any of them? That's the problem. Yeah, it's a mess. Heading into the season, if you would have come out of a draft like all those guys, well, maybe not the Bears teammates, but say one of the 2 and then fill in the rest of them, you'd be like, man, I'm loaded. I'm loaded at wide receiver.
If you went running back heavy and you had Allen Robinson, Odell Beckham, Robbie Anderson, because remember where he was being drafted, and Jalen Reagor was your 4, you were like, oh, dude, my team's awesome. And I'm not even saying that voice to mock. Like, we all thought that was like a good, like, we were all on.
Yeah. Yeah, you did that thing where you stand back and just look at the board. You're like, yep. Yep. Everybody's standing in silence looking at the board. It's an annual rite of passage there for fantasy drafts. Yeah, it would have looked good, but it's not. Robbie Anderson at least has some touchdown upside, but really the decision-making for Sam Darnold, it's not even just this past week. I mean, of course, we could, play, well, I guess Wednesday afternoon quarterback here and say, oh, yeah, he stinks. The decision-making has been problematic over the last couple of weeks. And really any of that fantasy value, when you rush for 4 touchdowns in 2 weeks, you're going to look like a good fantasy quarterback.
Right.
But ultimately, it's a problem for them. Deshaun Watson does not look like it's on the table for them. So I guess they're going to have to ride this thing out. I still don't mind DJ Moore, by the way, if anybody's panicking there.
Yeah.
The volume is there, so I'm not worried about him. But Anderson is definitely dicey.
DJ Moore 1 game without double-digit targets or 2?
If it's 2, it's close. Tied for second in the league in targets.
The thing, so there was a tweet discussion, I think it was during Monday Night Football. When you worked at PFF, Mike Clay, I was talking about the opportunities left on the field for Robbie Anderson, and I happened to, just because in my waiver column, I always put the top leaders in unrealized air yards, just basically air yards minus receiving yards. That simple. And I always put him there, and I always tell there's context behind it, too, because Robbie Anderson is number 2. Huge amount. Terry McLaurin's number 1. And somebody actually said, because a couple weeks ago, Corey Davis and Elijah Moore, even while Elijah Moore was missing time, was inside the top 10. I said, this is why it's one piece of a big puzzle. The quarterback matters. You put all of this into context. Like, so, yes, Robbie Anderson has a ton of air yards left on the field. But as you said, and what I've been saying for a lot this year, Sam Darnold's still the same Darnold we've always known. Sometimes the quarterback matters and throws that value out the window.
Yeah, I'd love to see that stat include catchable targets. Now, the historic definition of catchable targets is always problematic. My former employer, PFF, usually that was just catches and drops. At FTN, we've actually expanded that. So our charters will define, it's a wider range of balls. They don't necessarily just have to be touched by the receiver to be deemed catchable. We also have some targets that receivers create catches on. So they're actually not catchable balls that they do catch. So, it's pretty cool what we're doing. But I would love to see that, because that would scrub out some of the poor quarterback play. Like, I know exactly what you're talking about. That London game, there were a couple really deep targets Corey Davis had a deep one. It was not even remotely catchable. So it goes down as air yards. But
I'll look at it. I'll look it up, Jeff. There was somebody that replied, and I didn't dig into it. I didn't retweet it yet because I wanted to dig into it and look before I just – and I'm not saying this to be like, oh, I didn't start from nowhere. We all did. But somebody tweeted into the discussion and said, that's why on our site we have a catchable factor for the air yards. So we have adjusted unrealized air yards.
Yeah.
It's like, cool, but I want to look into it first. So I'll probably retweet it for anybody who wants to see it out there, because I want to see. So I was going to talk about the Bucs receivers, but Antonio Brown is on a crutch, so I don't think we have to worry about that right now. But let's talk about the Colts wide receivers, because T.Y. Hilton, his first game back, 4 for 80, if I remember correctly. Big game. Only out there about half the time because they kept him limited, and then he had to tweak. But being back out there, how concerned of T.Y. Hilton being on the field are you for Michael Pittman's value? Or do you think Carson Wentz starting to look better and healthier in the fact that they could be like a 1A, 1B and kind of both wide receiver 3s? Which would actually be a downgrade for Pittman.
Yeah, I think that's probably the most likely. So there is an impact with T.Y. out there, but I don't think it's a dramatic impact. And of course, not having Paris Campbell out there does help the cause, because you don't have that threat. If Campbell is ever healthy, he could be one of these guys. He just never ends up being healthy through the course of his career. But when he is healthy, he's a dynamic player on the field. So, yeah, I think that's probably the most likely. If I had to choose one, of course, I'm going to go with the younger guy every single time. And Pittman has looked really good this season. But you mentioned the key factor, and I know a lot of Eagles fans are happy that Wentz is remaining healthy here. Wentz has looked pretty good, though, and he fought through that very tough game in the rain obviously delivering at the end, putting up some decent numbers, a dagger to a bunch of folks in season long who had to face Michael Pittman. But I think that's still sustainable. And I would view him more as the front end and maybe T.Y. as the back end wide receiver 3.
Yeah, I'm pretty much on with that one. There was a question. I'm scrolling back to find it. Oh, what are we doing with the Seahawks backfield, in your opinion? Because we moved on for running backs. So I don't want to come back to this one. Collins still remains the lead. Penny, clearly in his first game back, was the number 2, but it was also his first game back, and he pretty much did nothing with his carries.
Against one of the best run defenses in the NFL.
Right, which was a miserable game if anybody sat through that Island game, which you probably did because there was nothing else to watch. But so going forward, Alex Collins, Rashad Penny, Homer and DJ Dallas were in there on some 2-minute drills. So how are you is it still start Collins as an RB3? You hope he scores a touchdown, or do you think Penny's going to continue to creep up and eat more out of his workload?
I think that's more likely, but not this week. If I have Collins this week, I do have him ranked as an RB3, and I have a flex option, whatever you want to call it. Penny is a more talented player. Collins there's nothing special about him. He's kicked around the league for a while. He does what the coaches want him to do. He can give you reps
without
as
the
he's
receiving skills.
Pretty much. And Pete Carroll loves that type of player. He loved Mike Davis, right? He loves that type of player because they get what he wants done on the field. Penny, though, is more athletic, of course, more injury prone, more athletic, though, more upside. So I think it's only a matter of time. And we really have no clue when Chris Carson is going to be back as well. That's the other challenge with this situation.
All right, so I hate to do it, but we got to talk about the Giants.
Okay.
We got to talk about the Giants' mess, because this could go in 18 different directions, because it's Monday Night Football on top of it.
Yeah.
But the good thing, I'll say this, Jeff, the one good thing is that you might actually be able to have 2 Giants, because there's some opportunities out there where Slayton's still barely rostered in leagues. You might be able to actually have 2 people in this game if you have Mecole Hardman and one of them. But the point is people are going to want to use somebody on the Giants side because they're facing the Chiefs and what the Chiefs allow for wide receivers. Hell, you know what? I hate to do it, but let's kind of just play this game real quick. Everybody's healthy.
Okay.
Except for Tony. Tony sounds like he's Tony sounds like the longest shot. So let's say Galladay, Shepard, and then Slayton, Pettis, all the rest. Galladay and Shepard are out there. How would you rank them if they both play?
Shep's going to be in the wide receiver 2 range. Okay. I did not put those guys. I know you go the other way around often. I did not put either of them in rankings as of right now. But he would be in the wide receiver 2 range just because of the volume. Daniel Jones looks like he really likes to have that safety blanket. And everybody healthy, that safety blanket seems like it's Kadarius Toney. I mean, the last time we saw him, he played 6 snaps, was targeted on 3 of them. So he's that guy, but when he's not there, it has been Shepard. So Shepard would be first out of the list. Slayton would be decidedly the bottom of the list. I think Galladay would be a little bit of a Hail Mary front-end flex play, like a front-end wide receiver 4, but just because we really can't trust him.
Okay. All right, so let's say Shepard is out. Does Galladay, because I'm 100% in agreement with you so far. If Shepard is out and Galladay actually plays, does Galladay get to the wide receiver 2 level because of the matchup and potential volume, or is he still hold as a wide receiver 3 for you?
Let me see who I have at
I had a
the
feeling
bottom.
you're going to check your ranks to see where.
Yeah, I have him pulled up
at wide
for that
receiver
reason.
24.
You know what? Yeah, I don't think I can put him ahead of. I can't put him ahead of Michael Pittman, Chase Claypool, Marvin Jones. Right now, I do not know.
Okay, so
assuming he doesn't play. But even so, Marvin Jones. So here, okay, Emmanuel Sanders, Brandon Cooks, Devontae Smith. That's 27, 28, 29. I think I would have him ahead of those guys, but I wouldn't have him any higher, so that puts him at 27.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good range. I think I'd play him over Devontae against the Lions. That's
the problem,
right?
Bucket.
Yeah, it's the same bucket there. Marvin Jones, I'm with you, especially against Seattle. Pittman, I have down at 20. I can't tell. 8, 9, 7, somewhere. But I have T.Y. Hilton in like the 30s, so that's I mean, I can't zoom this any much bigger before it gets distorted, and I can't read the numbers 100%. So you'll just have to deal with that. Hey, you know what? BL34, I'm glad you asked that question. I wasn't going to ask about or answer or talk about T. Higgins. I was about to say T.Y. Higgins. Just giving him new names. He says Higgins or Cooks. You know I love Cooks, but I talked about it last week with you, Jeff. What is the disrespect for T. Higgins? How are people not treating T. Higgins as just a must start at this point?
He's getting overshadowed by a superstar rookie, but that doesn't mean that he's not seeing heavy volume. He still led the team in targets last week,
right,
despite the big performance from CJ, the big performance from Chase as well. There's a big T. Higgins game brewing. It's not always going to be Chase every single week. I really don't think so. There's a big T. Higgins game brewing, and I don't want him sitting on a bench of mine when that happens. If I have him, that's why I'm pretty bullish on him. A back-end wide receiver too. Joe Burrow's spinning it right now, and they actually open up the passing game a little bit. Now, my one concern is do we see 35 carries for Joe Mixon this week and 20 carries for Samaje Perine against that poor defense? That's the only concern. But no, I really like T. Higgins, and the matchup for Brandon Cooks is not a good one. I don't think he is shadowed in this contest, but I don't think they need to shadow him to ultimately shut down that passing game.
Would you feel better knowing Tyrod Taylor was definitely starting, or doesn't matter for you?
I don't think it really matters. No, that would help, but it doesn't change where I would rank him in relation to T. Higgins.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. I'm with you. Trade question in here real quick. So I think this is you can tell me if I'm wrong, Phil, Mike, but I've been telling people everywhere I could, as I think I told you, and we brought this up last week, to go buy Chase Claypool. Buy him. His two best games are when Deontay Johnson didn't play, and the other one was when Juju Smith-Schuster left at the beginning of the game. And then he had a third game, which was pretty solid with both of them. Claypool we've seen for all of last year. When there's only two, and he's one of the two, he's a top 20 wide receiver. Now, does that mean he finishes top 20 every single week? No, but he's a top 20 wide receiver. I say that to say this, Jeff. The question is Sutton and Michael Carter for Claypool. Carter is his RB5, but I still don't want to. He says nobody's trading, and in some of those leagues you have to overpay, and I get it. But at the same time, you know what? I hate to say I'll just sit on my depth, and I might never need it. But look at all the people out there chasing Boston Scott this week, and that's why I don't do it.
Exactly. He's your fifth running back right now. What if your top four get hurt this week? Could happen. Certainly well within the realm of possibility in the NFL. Don't bank on that. You're overpaying. Sutton for Claypool, I would still want Sutton. I don't want to get Claypool there.
See,
Claypool was
I
actually
Claypool
dropped
barely
in leagues.
I want Claypool a little bit over Sutton with Judy coming back. And I'm a Sutton guy.
I don't think that changes anything for me. The only thing that Judy coming back does is takes all the wind out of Timmy Patrick's sails. That's it.
Well, it makes Noah Fant even more volatile than he already was.
And Albert O could be back for Noah Fant's volatility even more so.
Yeah. So would you say Sutton top 20 for you rest of the season? Because I said Claypool inside the top 20. So are you saying top 20 for Sutton too, or you think I just have Claypool too high?
I have Claypool back end wide receiver too. Sutton pretty much right there as well.
Okay.
So I think it's razor thin, but I would rather Sutton in the two. I think, is it an unfair deal? No, it's not unfair. The way it's structured now, it is unfair. And I'll tell you this: why does anybody have to trade? Trading doesn't make a league better or worse. And if nobody's trading your league, so be it. Like play the game that they're playing and beat them at it then.
So let's talk our favorite streamers of the week at quarterback and tight end. As we always do to close out the show, Jeff, so the one I put in the column, I said I shouldn't have to put him here, but I'm writing him up anyway. This is not my streamer. But I was like, Joe Burrow, how is he still not just go out there, set it, forget it, Joe Burrow? I don't know what more he needs to do. So I said, if that's too obvious and you have been reading and have been listening, then let's move on to the next one. And I had two names. One of them still feels obvious too, and that's Daniel Jones. So I'm going to go with Trevor Lawrence. And Trevor Lawrence heading into the bye was showing signs of being Trevor Lawrence, not only as a passer, but he's running a little bit more, Jeff, like he was in college. And that's what we want. Honestly, he's running as much as Kyler Murray is because Kyler Murray doesn't run anymore. That's the thing.
Wisely so.
So I think Trevor Lawrence is in play to be a QB1 this week. Where are you going?
I'm going to go with Teddy Bridgewater. I don't think he's in play to be a QB1, but if you don't have one of the top 10, if you don't have Cousins, who a lot of folks sat on through his bye week, if you don't have Joe Burrow, that you could go a couple different routes, right? Maybe Tannehill. Keep in mind, everybody hated Tannehill last week. Now everybody loves him again. Tannehill is a front-end quarterback too. Just keep this in mind. Matt Ryan is trending up, but it's Matt Ryan, right? And we don't know where we are quite with that. Daniel Jones is out there as well, but you know what you get with Daniel Jones is a wide range of expectations. So how about Teddy Bridgewater in a matchup that is very favorable? You know, teams have been able to throw all over Washington. My one concern, but it would be game script. If Denver completely shuts down the Washington offense, then it's not the best game script, but it's one of those plays, Jake, where it's like, I'm going to get those save points at quarterback with Teddy and then try and beat my opponent elsewhere.
Fair enough. All right, so you get to go first. Go ahead on your tight end. I didn't steal your tight end, right? Because I put mine in before you did.
No. I actually did this because of the rumors that are circulating. So this could be a little bit of a Zach Ertz situation.
I see what you're talking about. I know where you're going.
So I have Evan Ingram in as my tight end, and there are some rumors circulating that teams are interested in him. I have him ranked at tight end 15, so you're in that same range. This week, I think if you have one of the top 10 tight ends, you're good. If you're outside of that, you're going to throw some darts. And even somebody like Ricky Seals-Jones, like I just mentioned, that's a tough matchup against Denver. So I'm going to throw a dart against a bad defense, hope that Shepard doesn't get back on the field this week, and maybe Galladay as well. You mentioned Tony, very unlikely here. And shoot for some upside, and then hope they trade him and he lands in a much better situation. I don't know what that situation is, but hopefully he lands somewhere else where he'll see more balls and actually be used not like Jason Witten, which would make a lot of sense for a guy like Evan Ingram.
It does make a lot of sense. You know, the athletic guy who wasn't a very good pass blocker coming out of college, who people called a misplaced wide receiver before they did that with Kyle Pitts. Yeah, let's use him a little bit more. Hey, he got Kyle Rudolph. He has his Jason Witten if he wants to stick with him. I'm double teaming with the Jaguars and Dan Arnold. The first game wasn't used a lot. Did catch both passes, but the last two games before they hit their bye, which was his second and third game with the team, he's tied for second in team target percentage. He is third in routes and opportunities. He's also facing the Seattle Seahawks, who also, as you know, Jeff, I love to target cover 2 defenses.
Yep.
And Seattle runs a heavy amount of cover 2. Actually, before we get out of here, you can actually take this off. It doesn't do the full, hold on. Look, it has the details underneath. It has the whole.
Wow.
Yeah, I can't take this off to do the full I'm dying, Jeff thing at the end, but the full that's actually creepier than this. That's a creepy mask. I should just walk around in that for Halloween.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
You know what else you should do? Follow Jeff at Jeff Ratcliffe. And Jeff is also at FTN, 20% off with code ALLIN. theathletic.com/BetsTV, all capitals. Get your first free month. I posted with my ranks this week, Jeff, my top 10, actually, so some old classic horror movies, but my top 10 newer horror movies for Halloween. We had a special guest ranker from the Ghost Hunters, so you should check that out too. But we'll be back next week is week 9. We're to pass the halfway point, Jeff. We're almost there. We appreciate all the love. I really appreciate you guys, by the way, for everything that's going on. We'll be back on Monday with Meanie and the recap. Love you guys. Bye.